I'm just going to take a few minutes and then hand over the microphone to Dr. Lina Mukhopadhayay, my colleague. The title of our paper is not yet up. The impact of evaluation criteria in writing performance, a study of pre-service English teachers. Our presentation will be in 3 parts. We will be looking at the theoretical input necessary for this argument. Then we will have presentation and analysis of data from student scripts and their reactions. And last of all, since our work is with teachers, we thought it is necessary to give you a little bit of a hands-on experience in creating task-specific criteria. So the last part of our session will be interactive, followed by summing up and questions. Over to Lina.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Geetha.
That's right.
Good morning, everybody. So, could you please get into the slides? So as Amy and Geetha said that we will be doing a paper on impact of evaluation criteria on writing performance. So this will be primarily, I'm taking this for granted that not many of you will have a lot of background knowledge in assessment and creation of evaluation criteria. Of course, you might have, so at the end of the presentation, you might want to share with us your experiences. So I'll be doing a little bit of theoretical input, as Geetha said, and then if you have attended Professor Borg's presentation in the morning, that he said that teachers need to be researchers and they need to look inward rather than outward. So I would treat this as an example of my inward-looking research, which I would want to share with you. And then probably you can take this idea a bit forward. Is there any problem with the slides? I can't function without the slides, I'm sorry. Right. No, you don't need. So generally, we have this idea that teaching leads to learning. Am I right? And that is why we are all dedicated teachers. We take our professions so seriously. But this would be one example in this paper. I would like to demonstrate that assessment can also give us opportunities to help learners learn, both in terms of cognitive skills as well as linguistic skills. And so we will do the okay, so this paper will be a demonstration that assessment can also lead to learning. So this would be in that spirit. So let us get into the details of the paper. So the objective of this presentation will be to address 3 points primarily. One would be, as I said, that we would be primarily looking at assessment of writing and what is the significance of using evaluation criteria to help in assessment of writing. And we will be briefly looking at certain types of evaluation criteria as a kind of a background knowledge towards the study. Then we will be looking at the impact of evaluation criteria, where we will be presenting our inward research in the classroom. So it will be a short classroom-based study. And in the third part, we will be looking at creation of evaluation criteria. So we have some simple tasks for you, and probably you would want to have some kind of a hands-on experience on doing task-specific evaluation criteria, which then will lead on to research. So we can discuss about research later. The presentation will be in 3 parts. So part 1, we will be briefly looking at issues in assessing writing. Then we will look at 2 principles. One is that of fairness by Professor Anthony Cunin, and then we will also look at the concept of positive washback. So those are the 2 areas which I'll address in this presentation. And then the classroom-based study will be a follow-up on following these 2 principles using evaluation criteria. So you can see the connection between theory and practice. And thereafter, in the last session, probably 10 or 15 minutes, we will devote towards designing of task-specific criteria based on stimulus that we have created for you. So let's look at part 1. So some of the pertinent issues, and I'm sure as teachers you will share this with me, that the first decision that we need to take, that in our country, English many a times, though is supposed to be taught as a language but masquerades as a subject. So then teachers are confused between whether to evaluate the content part or evaluate writing for the language part, or penalize students if the content is not good but language is good, and vice versa. So there are lots of confusions which we need to deal with. The second decision is, once we have decided, okay, this is what we want to evaluate, we also need to take an informed decision about the scales or the kind of criteria that we can possibly use. And this is where I'll give you a bit of theoretical input so that at a later point of time, you can take informed decisions about the criteria that you would use in your classroom purposes. Or probably you might already do that, so it will reinstate to you that what you're doing is like you're on the right track. And then we will also be looking at how to ensure these 3 aspects: inter-rater reliability, fairness, and positive washback. Now, the presentation will not look at inter-rater reliability because that is not the focus of this study. What we will be addressing is how to ensure that we produce an atmosphere of fairness. So I'll be giving you certain cues about that. And thereafter, we will see what are the effects on learning in terms of positive washback. So we will be primarily targeting fairness and positive washback. So let's look at what is fairness. And this again, fairness has several other sub-principles, but I'm going to look at it only from the point of view of evaluation criteria. If you are interested in looking at this principle at greater length, maybe you can talk to me, I can give you certain other readings, which look at also the creation of test being a fair activity. So we're not going to look at all that. We're going to look at evaluation criteria and how it can be used to establish this concept of fairness. So how do we do it? There are 3 steps. The first step is we need to make an informed decision, take an informed decision, which evaluation criteria are we going to take. Now there are 3 levels that we need to address. One is the level of the students in terms of their linguistic cognitive abilities. The second is the requirements of the task. Is it a guided writing task? Is it a free response task? So that will govern our choice of criteria. And the third aspect that will govern our choice of criteria is test purpose. So is and very soon I will show you examples of both the cases. Then the second point that can establish fairness is very essential, that after we have designed the criteria, we go on to sharing it with our students. And this is where our research starts. So I'm taking it for granted that the designing is it's not problematic. So I've taken that for granted. So what we are going to target is sharing the evaluation criteria and see the kind of impact it has on the learning developmental process. And the third is also to be able to train learners to use the evaluation criteria criteria. So this will create access, equal access to everyone. And the second point will create inter-learner equity, that everybody will have access to the criteria. So it will be a transparent process. So it's not something sacrosanct that I hold on to my criteria and I judge my students on the basis of that. I penalize them unnecessarily, or I give them grades based on my subjective impressions. So these are the 3 points which will help us establish fairness in assessment. So now let's move on to the next bit, which is a little more background on evaluation criteria. So now we are faced with this immense problem of how do I choose my evaluation criteria, given the fact that we have to take into account students' levels, number 1, number 2, task requirements, and number 3, test purposes. So let's see how we can solve that problem. So we have a menu from which you can choose. So there are these 2 types of evaluation criteria. So if you look at, I'm sure many of you already know this, that we can use either a holistic scale or an analytical scale. Now holistic scale, if you look at holistic scale, it is only one description for each sub-feature. So a teacher might have some kind of a notion as to what he or she would look for in terms of content, language, and organization. And there can be only one description for that. And it is generally used for summative examination. So here our intention is not to track learning, but to see how much has been learned. So we are not promoting learning through this, but we are taking account of what has already happened. So it's like a snapshot view of learning that has happened. So we are not promoting learning through this, but we are just making sure that something has been learned. Whereas analytical, for each sub-feature, there are specific descriptions, and there can be level-specific descriptions. So I can have a description for band A, for band B, for band C, so on and so forth. So it's very, very specific, much more detailed, much more nuanced, and the target here mostly is to provide feedback. So if we use, I mean, for all of us, what is significant is that we use language tests as local events inside the classroom, and so they can be used as tools towards learning. So it is not to track learning only, but also to promote learning. Like I said, that many a times we only believe that teaching, instruction leads to learning, but we also can see that through assessment we can promote learning. So if we were to, if this is something that you would like to do, then you should ideally begin with an analytical criteria. Of course, you can begin with a holistic criteria, but then move on to doing an analytical criteria, because this will exactly help you pinpoint strengths and weaknesses of your learners. So it's a very, very good feedback tool, and you will see how it has worked in our study. Right, so these are the types. And then, as I was speaking about this for some time now, that evaluation criteria can have 3 types of roles. One is the first box, to check understanding, so that is assessment of learning. The second is to provide feedback, so assessment as learning. And the third one, which I'm very interested in, and the study is based on the third block, that assessment for learning, so development. So we're going to track evaluation criteria as a tool for linguistic and cognitive development. So how do we do that? We make the criteria transparent to the learners, and then document this change. So this is what we have done in our study. So we have documented how this affects their writing. So this is the background about evaluation criteria. Now let's move on to the next point. Primarily, evaluation criteria has been well researched in the field of language teaching and assessment. And there are 3 branches of research. But the branch of research that we have taken up, we are not too aware. This is some idea which just hit us, and we tried to do a research out of it. So I'm not too sure whether at all it has been researched or not, but we're going to take it further forward. So it's at a very, very nascent stage, at a very baby stage. So let me give you out the 3 strands of research that has been done in evaluation criteria. So primarily people are worried about what kind of a criteria should be chosen. Should it be holistic? Should it be analytical? And what would govern the choice? So that is one set of research that has happened with evaluation criteria. The second strand is various studies have been done on what guides raters to choose certain kinds of evaluation criteria. So what guides them? Is it their linguistic knowledge? Is it their educational background? Or is it impact of certain kind of training? So on and so forth. So that's the second strand of research. And the third strand of research is on inter-rater reliability. So to figure out correlations between raters' judgments and see how much they correlate and for what reasons they correlate or they do not correlate. So these are kind of the basic research that has been done with evaluation criteria. But to our best of our knowledge, evaluation criteria has never been used as a tool to promote writing development. So this is something that, as I said, that it is at a very, very nascent stage, and we would like to do more research and see, we would like to get more evidence for the claims that we establish through this study. Now let's quickly look at what can give rise to positive washback in the sense of not teaching but learning. So when we can track that ESL, EFL learners will be able to use evaluation criteria. So if we are designing an evaluation criteria and sharing it with them, the next step would be they would use it while they're doing their assignments. Am I right? Yes? So when they are using it during their task performance, they are likely to use it as a checklist to full transparent manner. Then moving on from task fulfilling activity, they can go to a higher level activity of doing self and peer assessments. If you remember Professor Borg's talk in the morning, that he was also talking about teachers doing in-house researches on effect of self-assessment on students by teachers in Turkey. So here also in this study you will see that students have been able to move on to this next step, that they use the evaluation criteria then to judge each other's responses and provide feedback. And very, very importantly, they can generalize from task-specific criteria to use it in other writing assignments in other courses. So once they get the template, they're able to generalize from that and they become more independent as writers. So they can use it in other courses. So these would be some of the benchmarks to identify whether positive washback, because it's a too short a time period to make a strong claim that positive washback has happened. So we can see the beginnings, the germination of the idea, and as I said, later further longitudinal research would give us more robust evidences. All right, so now we move on to part 2. So as I said, I would quickly summarize that we're going to look at the establishment of fairness and the happening of positive washback through the study. So I would want you to watch out for that the evidences I'm giving you, do they actually correlate with what I'm making a claim on. So let's move on and look at a brief description of the study. Looking at the time. Right. This study, let me just give you this background that many of you must be school, college, high secondary, junior college teachers, but unfortunately I teach at a university and my students are all adult learners. They are pre-service teachers. So someday I would like to do this kind of research at the school level, but right now the study that I am going to show you, the findings is all at the university level, but I have a feeling that the implications of the study run wide enough to be able to be applied to school context at primary levels, to secondary levels, to levels even beyond that. So I would just say that please be a little patient, and I would want to share my findings with you, and then we will see how the implications can be drawn for lower level learners, in the sense that with children of varying age groups. The aim of our study was to examine the role of evaluation criteria in writing performance. So we're going to track writing performance through the use of evaluation criteria. And what we did was we looked at participants' perception of criteria and the benefits that they perceived. And it was during the task that they perceived and post-task. So what I did was, it was a very open system, and my students were very kind enough to do this activity with me, that after we had a series of 10 tasks, and after every task, they would not only discuss it in class, we had opened something called as a discussion board, which I learned from one of my e-courses from the US, and I utilized it in my course. So it was a kind of an open mail to all my 13 students, and they would answer to my questions as queries for using evaluation criteria during the task and post-task. So that's how I've got a very rich set of data set for this study, and I've been able to analyze what they have experienced. So that would be one. And also, they have also given their awareness and use of evaluation criteria in writing. So most of them, I would say probably 2 of them reported to having used evaluation criteria earlier, but never at this level, which was task specific and which was made transparent, so on and so forth. So for all of them, it was a huge learning experience. So this is what they have shared with me, and this is what we are going to look at. And so I'll give you briefly the context of the study. You can read from the slide that this was a PhD level course which I offered for my participants. It was called Language Testing and Assessment. So all the tasks are towards designing tests, critiquing tests, writing good tests, so on and so forth. So they are not exactly language tasks that way, but there has been a lot of use of language along with content with respect to this course. So it was language testing and assessment. And the course, as I said, was built around a series of 10 writing assignments. So it had a model of formative assessment, which fortunately our university allows us to do. Not many of us have the opportunity to do this in other organizations, so we are extremely grateful for that. And for each assessment, I had designed task-specific evaluation criteria. And so these were shared with the learners prior to doing the tasks, and an in-depth study was done to get evidence of learning through writing assessment. So if you look at the sharing bit, that is how I built in the concept of fairness, that I created the evaluation criteria, and then it was shared with the students. And in the process of time of doing these 10 tasks over a period of 6 months, they also got an implicit training. I've not done explicit training. That's my next project that I will take up. So I'd created an atmosphere of, openness. And also, the in-depth study will give us evidences of the beginnings of positive washback. So I would not say that it is a positive washback in a very, very strong manner, but it would be the beginnings of learning. So this is the context of the study. And these were the research questions that we addressed. That if criteria are provided to adult ESL learners, will they benefit from this knowledge? And what kinds of benefits will they experience? So these were the 2 research questions that we used, and let's see how we can answer them. So our method of data collection was, as I said, that I had 13 adult learners, and they had a lot of teaching experience, ranging from 1 year to some had even teaching experience of 12 to 14 years. So it was a very mixed group, and each person was a resource in the class. And only 2 of 8 participants had prior teaching experience, and as I said, that only 2 of them reported to have used criteria as teachers at some point of time in their lives. So our study was done in 4 stages. The first stage was the creation and making available task-specific criteria. So that was the first step to ensure that fairness was practiced. Then the students were given a chance to perceive the criteria, which they shared through their discussions as well as online discussion board. So they wrote it out, based on the Q questions that I had given them. Then they used the criteria to do their tasks, as well as doing while engaging in self and peer assessment. So they learned to use the criteria, but note that it is only implicit training, it is not explicit training. So that is not something that I have tried out. And then the last part where they would talk about the benefits. So we're going to capture the talking about benefits. Now, as I said, that it is not exactly a school task or a college task, so it's not a language task primarily, it's a content task where we are going to track language changes and cognitive skills development. So let me give you an example of a task that I used in my study, and later I will give you tasks which you can relate to in terms of contexts such as school or high school, colleges, so on and so forth. So the task prompt was like this. That what I did was I shared with them the BA entrance test paper, which we use at EFL-U, and I asked them to tear it to bits based on their understanding of the principles of language tests. So this was their activity. So they had to answer this question for me: does this test pass all the 5 principles of assessment, which they did wonderfully well. I mean, I was amazed at the level of critique that they had reached, and then they had to justify their stance as a writing assignment and write a critical response in about 500 words. So they analyzed the test paper, identified the good points and the not so good points, and they were expected to write a critical response in 500 words. That was a connected text. So the analysis was separate, and then the writing, followed by the writing. And this was the evaluation criteria that I used. Again, I have simplified it. It was a little more elaborate across levels. So I would show you examples of descriptions for content, language, and organization. So let's see what are the questions that I had. Of course, I had not included it as questions, but somehow if we put across things as WH questions, maybe we're able to connect to them better. So I have converted them into WH questions. Of course, there were statements when I used them in the actual criteria. So for content, I checked whether the response contains an overall thesis statement and has comments on all the 5 principles of assessment, and is each principle justified with an example. Now, I'm somebody who would not accept any claims without examples. So I get after my students' lives and I drive them crazy till the point they give me an example. So at the end of it, of course, they say that they have learned something meaningful, but I don't take any lofty claims for granted. So I'm an empiricist, and I would like to go with examples. So this is something that I really checked for in terms of content. Then I also looked for, since they are PhD level students and this was their first course, and this was in alignment with another course that many of our colleagues, we did it together on academic reading and writing, so I wanted it as a follow-up activity. So I was closely looking at their use of language, so academic language and referencing skills. And last of all, I looked at organization. So does the text have internal coherence with an introduction, body, and conclusion, with the ideas presented in a linear manner, as should be done in an academic paper. And also I looked for intra and intersentential level sentences. Of course, I was not too harsh on them in terms of the last bit, but at least if they could structure a text with a macro level coherence with the 3 parts, I mean, I was quite happy with that at least they had begun to think about what they're writing and trying to make connections. So this was my task-specific evaluation criteria. Now, when they got this criteria, it was given across 3 levels. So A-level performance, which is the best, B-level performance, moderate, and C-level performance, which requires improvement. So that's not satisfactory. So that's how they got it as, and they could decode it and use it in their writing. Now, our method of analysis is very simple. We made a qualitative and interpretive analysis of perceptions from 2 sources. One was the participants, and the second was the tutor, which was me as the evaluator. And through this, what we tried to do was to capture instances of learning, which, as I said, would be the germination of positive washback. So let's see how I measured this concept of washback. So I used this particular criteria with 4 features. And when we look at examples, I will show you how these features are present in their responses. So I checked for, do they experience an ease in planning and performing on tasks? So at the planning stage and at the level of performance, because the evaluation criteria, all of them told me that made their lives easier in a certain sense, and also made their lives difficult in another sense, that they had to attend to details. So they knew that they could not give me any crap of writing, and they knew where they stood after they had submitted. So they were very, very conscious in terms of what they were writing. So do they experience an ease in planning and performing on tasks? Then are they able to understand assessors' expectations through that document? Can they use criteria for self and peer assessment meaningfully? Meaning that do their assessment and my assessment match? And can they give good feedback to their each other? Because once they looked at their responses, they had this tendency to criticize each other, but the other person would not take the criticism if it did not match with the description of the evaluation criteria. So it was a very, very productive discussion that they had. And also they were themselves then critiquing their writing. Then they were focusing on their strengths and weaknesses. And also the last part, that if they are able to generalize what they gain from this course into writing assignments in other courses. So I would track these 5 aspects to measure the learning experience. So let's now move on to the findings. I would begin with their responses in terms of certain Q questions, and since there are 13 of them, I have converted them into percentage score, and as you can imagine, that all of them were kind of implicitly trained through the course, so at the end of it, they all had very high notions of evaluation criteria. So don't get misled by the figures that I show you. Maybe if I had done a study with a control group who do not use the evaluation criteria, they would be able to give me more varied responses. And of course, all my students probably love me, admire me, and so they have given this kind of a data. But remember that this was a part of their training. So obviously they had good experiences, and which is why they were unanimous in saying that they found it useful. But we will check out from their responses. So I had given them a scale of 1 to 5, where 1 is not important, not useful, to 5, which is most useful. And I've converted those scores into percentage scores. So overall usefulness, everybody found it was very useful. And on an average, participants reported that they had benefits, they experienced benefits at the level of planning and post-task reflection on their strengths and weaknesses at a level of 96%. So probably they were quite happy with what they got. And this experience was due to availability of evaluation criteria to complete writing assignments. So since I had shared it with them, it had, it had helped them reach to a second higher level, that they could critique their own process. So it was not anything that they would write and that I would accept as an assessor. So now let's move on to the next part, benefits experienced. And we will look at it from 3 perspectives. One is their responses based on the discussion board. One instance of peer evaluation. So I have correlated their evaluation scores with my scores, and I'll show you the results for that. And lastly, a quick summary of tutors' assessment of their growth that they showed. So this was one student, and you can read. I don't need to read this out. This was an example of ease in planning. This was an example of understanding assessors' expectations. So they are showing, so this is how I tracked learning. Then this was an example of ability to generalize techniques to other pieces of writing, post-course application. So the first part is during task, post-task, and then it is post the course that they could apply it to other courses. Yeah, this is another example from another student. So it again shows ease in using criteria, and followed by positive reflection post-performance. So these are from their discussion board. Yeah, these are from their discussion board. After this, we will look at an instance of peer evaluation. sorry, I have the summary of benefits. So during task, they felt that it was, so I've summarized all their comments because it's not possible for me to show the entire data set. So they found it crucial to finish tasks on the course in an organized manner, then understand different levels of performance, what is an A-level performance versus B versus C, and also understand assessors' expectations. So these were during the task. And post-task, they found it useful to complete peer and assessment and provide feedback to each other and understand strengths and weaknesses in their work, especially in content development. So they could not focus, or I rather could not focus so much on their linguistic development, but in terms of their ability to argue out for ideas, it got much better towards the end of the course. So they could focus more in terms of content development. So now let's look at one instance of peer evaluation. So there was one assessment, the same assessment, critiquing the test for 5 principles. So we did a peer evaluation on this. So once they submitted their tasks, what I did was in the class, I gave them back their assignments. I mean, not to the person who has written it, but to another person. And then they were again given the evaluation criteria, and they had to assign scores and justify the scores across content, language, and organization. So what I found was my scores and their scores matched at a level of 0.79, which is pretty high. So which means that they were using the evaluation criteria in a sensible manner. And in a one-to-one discussion later with me, the participants said that they found the evaluation criteria very methodical because of use of task-specific criteria. So it was very transparent, and it was making more sense to them when they did it for peer evaluation. So they could understand the direction in which the writing should have been done. So it was like an implicit feedback that I gave them without making the effort to give them feedback in an explicit manner. Now let's look at another example. Based on peer evaluation, again, I had asked a certain number of questions. So this was what the participant answered. So the participant said that yes, the criteria helped me in assessment, and if the criteria was not given, then scoring would not have been easy. It would have gone haywire because they wouldn't know what is a good response from a bad response. And chances are, many a times when assessing content, if we find the language is good, I'm sure you will agree with me that we tend to overscore learners, isn't it? So for them, it was like very, very critical and crucial. And when they were given responses based on the other peers' scores, they found that, the participant agreed strongly with the scoring because the participant realized that it was objectively scored. So they were not trying to settle personal scores against each other. And these are again instances of positive washback where they have helped me in establishing inter-rater reliability, which was not what I was looking for, but this was a payoff of the study. And then they could provide each other meaningful feedback. Now I would quickly summarize my assessment based on one of the term papers they wrote at the very end of the course. So this is what they gained in terms of content. There were some attempts at forming an opinion and justifying it through examples, something that I'm really big on, that they have to give me examples. Then most of the key ideas were present. Though the argumentation they placed was not that sophisticated or well-formed. So that is where they need to work more on. And in terms of organization, overall structure was present in terms of a tripartite structure, and the proper order of key ideas were maintained. Then the ideas were signaled that in this paper I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, so on and so forth. So their intention was very clear. And of course the micro coherence, as in links between sentences and within sentences, was not something that they paid attention to. So that is my next project, as I said, that I will look at their revision of work using the evaluation criteria. So these were some of their gains and things which they could not do. Now let's quickly explain why the benefits were experienced. So cognitively, it made their tasks easier because it was broken down into manageable bits. So they could pay attention to content followed by organization and language. Then it drew their attention to structure content coherently. So that was something like a kind of a reminder, an external reminder that you have to attend to coherence and present ideas in an academic manner. So somewhere it came out as something useful to them. So they could not only produce an output, but the output was also meaningful for them because of the criteria. Then, of course, as we have looked at in terms of the examples, that it provided them with a clear checklist to edit and revise their work. So criterion was made available and the participants benefited from this. Then when they did peer assessment, the same evaluation criteria, they went through it once again. And this time they were doing it for assessment. So it made them notice details even further. So it reinstated certain points in their minds and led to a deeper level of understanding. Also they felt responsible for what they had written and evaluated. So there was a kind of a democratic assessment atmosphere which was created. They felt that what they were doing was very meaningful, and since we all like to take responsibilities and behave in a responsible manner, when they were given a chance to do that, they really matched up to my expectations. So all of these could have contributed to their learning trajectory. But as I said, that this is just the beginning point. Very quickly, I would summarize that the spirit that we should move on from assessment of learning, which is quadrant 1, to quadrant 2, which is assessment as learning, which is formative. Many a times we do that, but what I would like to see some of you do, or probably you could do a joint research with us at a later point, that assessment for learning, that we not only make a formative level model available to students, but we also use the criteria in such a manner that it promotes learning. So it is not that we are going to track what has been learned, but we are going to track how the learning is taking place. So the process becomes more important than the product. And so this is the connection that I would like to draw at the very end, that we created an atmosphere of fairness and which led on to positive washback, and the washback was in terms of development of mostly of content knowledge, in terms of argumentation of ideas, but that again feeds into their writing because it is academic writing at a higher level. And so quickly, the pedagogical implications, that assessment can and should be used to support learning. So that's a new step. And free response items should have task-specific evaluation criteria as much as possible. I mean, as I said, you could begin with holistic and then move on to analytical. And criteria can be shared to experience. As a teacher, we can experience these changes in learners. So these would be raising awareness, noticing task requirements, revising documents, and tracking growth. So all of this put together would be the beginnings of a positive washback. So that would be the end of my study, and now we will move on, and we have how much time, Geetha? 15 minutes. So before, so what we have is a few, I mean, we have actually 2 tasks, but before that, I will just shift gears because I was doing something at the university level. So I would show you something at the school level so that it also, I mean, triggers a certain amount of imagination in your minds, and you could share with us your thoughts on the stimulus that we give you in terms of, so what we want you to do is look at the tasks and give us some idea of the kind of evaluation criteria that you would create for those tasks. So let me just take you through one task. So we need to design an evaluation criteria, again reiterating the same point because it can ensure fairness and give rise to instances of learning as in terms of positive washback. So let us look at a task. This is something that many of you would be able to relate to. Yeah, so this is a letter writing activity, something that many of us do as school teachers, am I right? Yeah, and it could be done at a college level as well. The content of the letter can be changed. So let's say if we have this task and if we had the choice to design a holistic criteria or a general criteria, it would be the teacher can just say you will be graded on content, language, and organization, and I can leave it at that to the teacher's interpretation. However, I can have a second option where I can create task-specific criteria with content, language, and organization. So for content, I would look for all the key ideas or the language functions that have to be present. So inquires about subscription details, modes of payments, details of delivery, time to be taken to receive the parcel, whom to contact in case of problems, so on and so forth. So these could be a set of a list of key ideas that we could watch out for in terms of content. Then language, we would see whether vocabulary is used to express those previous language functions or key ideas. So those would be in line with that. And if you are very, very meticulous as a teacher, you can actually put down the list of phrases and words that you expect them to use as a kind of a broad checklist. Some might use from them, some might use outside them. And the last part would be very important, that linearly arrangement of the key ideas. So begins with a formal address to the editor, expresses interest about the magazine. So that would be the first part, introduction. Then the body would be, presents all inquiries about the subscription. That would be the body. And concludes by thanking the editor and expressing that he or she intends to receive information as fast as possible, like we do in real life. I mean, these are some of the intentions that we express through a letter writing activity, especially which is for getting information from someone. So this would be an example of task-specific criteria. So if you were to design such an criteria and share it with your students, do you think it would make a difference in terms of their writing patterns? Would it cue them into many more ideas that they need to watch out for? It would make life difficult for them, yes, but at a certain level, they would also thank you because they will become more informed learners. Yeah, so this is the kind of task that we will now do. So I will show you the 2 examples of tasks that we have, and then we will give you out the handouts. So this is task 1. Where it's an ad, and it is to raise their critical thinking skills. So it is not only a basic language task, but something higher than that. So where you can watch out for both content and language in the 2 pictures. And this is the kind of template that we want you to work on, content, organization, and language. And the second task is a pair task, same area, but with a different age group. So it's the same prompt, as you can see, only the text length has been increased. And of course, the complexity of probably discussion might also increase, though we don't know. Yesterday, Geetha and I, we were having a discussion. So is fairness as important for children or not important as for adults? And we were at a loss, because then we thought both are at a same level in terms of both the tasks. So these are the 2 tasks, and what we want you to do is think of what you will put in content, what you will put under organization, and what you would put under language. And probably we could take 10 minutes to do that. Right, thank you.
Okay, where we need help or suggestions is, can you people just choose and say Amul fairness, lady fairness, because I've got 2 sets of handouts. Okay, so that each group, 3-4 of you, work on 1 task. Okay? Amul ad. Fine. Will people here tell me if you want to work on the other one?
Whoever wants to work on this task, please come to this side. And the others can go, then it will be easy for them. But just make sure that they want to work on the other one. So you can just, so this is the first task. Sure. We will give you a copy.
Anyone else who wants this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm coming. See, work in pairs. Because there's no point in making 4 and moving around. Sure. Work in pairs, work in threes. Just write, at least for content, the criteria. Imagine the answer your student will write.
Yeah.
And put down what you will expect as content in the answer for your criteria.
And for the second task, you will see I have not put down the marks. So you have to take a decision that out of 10, how much do you want to give for content, how much for language, and how much for organization. So you can decide.
you're working with this, no, you just continue working. See, think about, put down in point form the answers for yourself. So mentally visualize the answer. Once you visualize the answer, you can start writing down as she's done what you'll expect, how many marks, and what you'll expect for each. So we're not asking for A, B, C. So think of just an acceptable answer. Later it can get developed further. Yeah, let's say 8 out of 10. Fine.
Okay, now that all of you have got a hang of the tasks, I'm sorry we are running out of time. So we are here till Sunday, and you can catch us anytime during today or tomorrow or day after tomorrow. And I'm going to give you out these another one more sheet where you can write down your names and email IDs. In terms of your group members, and you can pass it on to us. And those of you who want to take up work using evaluation criteria, if you have been convinced by our research, and would like to work along with us, you can give us your email IDs, and we will get back to you. And if you give us this information, and if you want some kind of a example criteria for the two tasks, if you give us your responses, we can collate all of that, and we can add our reflections, and we can give you 2 more samples. And these days, communication is very easy, right, with the internet. So we can all do that. So if you give us your email IDs, we can keep in touch, right? Yeah.
I'm making sure that we started, but we
I think so. No, not for the school. Actually, we were confused whether that can also be used at a...
your responses. I'd rather send that
Sure, good, very good.
answering
So,
questions and getting your mail ID
Geetha.
because we can respond.
You have already have to write your name, teaching background, email ID, and... Okay. And help them. Sure.
Lina, just to pass out some more papers. Some groups have already written their criteria for the task. If you have finished, give it to us with somebody's mail ID. If not by Sunday, by next week, we'll give you feedback. We'll take it further. That's a promise. Okay, and anybody who'd like to do something like this in your schools and colleges, give us your mail ID, your name, your institution. We can start what Simon Borg was talking about. A small teacher, researcher project. Not very difficult. You are teaching, we have the criteria, let's do a project together. Okay? Now, let's move to something else. I found that there were quite a few people who had some questions. So, I'm deliberately, the last part of our paper was to collate all your answers and put them up and show them. That's not going to happen. We've run out of time. I'd rather answer questions. We'll send you feedback on these by next week. Yeah, just finish something and give it to us. We'll give you feedback. You had a question. Right? You had something to ask. Come. What is it? I'm just managing time differently. Yeah. Please ask. Ask us.
My question is, when we start our writing classes with assessment criteria, when we start our
assessment
writing
classes,
with assessment criteria, what about the teaching aspect? So I feel that we are pushing classroom learning, teaching learning to the background. Another thing
No, no. See, it's not, you don't begin your writing class with assessment. You teach them how to write when you give them a task to sit and write.
all right, and
When you give the prompt, at that point, along with your task, you give them the criteria.
all right, if we can take one more minute.
Sure.
Say, for example, I start my writing classes with the basics of paragraph writing, as Lina said, topic sentence or the thesis
Fine.
statement and cohesive devices,
Right.
everything. And maybe at junior college level, we ask them to write 200 to 250 words.
Right.
So I'm asking them to write a paragraph, and I've done a portfolio assessment, ma'am, because that is why I said
Correct.
So what happens is they have a very good sense of paragraph level writing and essay writing. So I think if I don't discuss assessment criteria, won't these things fall in place? Because I expect them to write a paragraph, they should have a topic sentence supporting details, they should write 3 paragraphs. Will all these things fall in place if I ask them to stick to the basics of...
Honestly, we don't have an answer. Okay? My gut feeling is, yes, children may know how to write, but are they very clear why they have got only a B grade or an A grade, what they need to do to that C grade performance to uplift it to a B grade is where your criteria will come in. For specific, focused feedback, individualized. That is where I think it will help. So what will happen, as I said, this is nascent work. Yeah. Yeah, we'll come to you.
What I was saying is,
Come here so that you get on the camera.
assessment criteria, boost their confidence.
True.
Yeah, but proficiency level, that is something I really want to look at now. That's why I said I have a few takeaways today.
True.
So definitely that is
As I said, that
yeah.
I also have not been able to track their language growth, which I would do using evaluation criteria not as a training tool, but also now I would use it explicitly to help them revise their documents.
Yeah, I would use it for revision as
Definitely,
well.
I would like to
Yeah.
be a part of what you're planning.
Sure. Right.
Okay, I think we'll take one more question.
One more.
One more.
I was going through Mike Rowe's article on writer's block, and don't you think teaching them all these organizations will block them from bringing out the ideas?
I think you should try.
No. See, unfortunately. Okay, sure. If somebody in the hall wants to answer it, why not?
You see, in 2002, around 2009, I stopped teaching. In 2002, I used this. 2002 and 2004 also with 7th class children. And I didn't know what it was. I didn't know all this theory. I didn't know how it worked. But instinctively, because 11th class children make a lot of noise and don't want to study, instinctively I use this sort of methodology to make them write. So, but only one difference, and I want to point out that difference, and it's a very important difference, is that they evolved the criteria.
Exactly. That's also possible.
So they evolved the criteria, they looked at, and the evolved criteria, of course, was assessed by me, and then finally a set of criteria was given, and then they looked at, not only did they do their own peer evaluation, we gave their assignments to one class higher, and Didi and Bhaiya did evaluation, and Didi and Bhaiya on the same criteria gave them feedback, and it was such a positive washback that from being the least loved to I became the most loved.
May I know your name, please? Just
Nivedita.
Nivedita, I think there are lots of studies on what you just said, that
Yeah, we are
children are
finishing.
given responsibility to evolve the criteria. And I mean, if you're interested, we could, I could share with you the reading list where they have actually done this with school children, very young, grades 1 and 2 as well. Where they have evolved the criteria and then they have used it to do peer and self-assessment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm afraid we're,
Last question.
yeah.
So other questions will be after
Yeah,
80 thumbs up.
I'm sorry, I'm afraid we are going to have to finish to make sure we run everything on time. But please do catch up with Geetha and Lina afterwards. I'm sure they'll be very happy to continue to discuss with you. Thank you very much. That was a really interesting talk, and particularly interesting the idea of assessment being part of the learning process rather than the final thing that the students do and then they move on to something completely different. And also I really liked this idea that you talked about fairness and transparency within assessment, which I think is the core of what you were talking about here, and very interestingly also reflected in the task that you talked about at the end with the idea of fairness as well, which I thought was quite a link. But yes, that was a very, very nice talk. Thank you very much.
Have anybody who's finished writing their criteria, please give us your papers, and most important, your mail IDs, please.
Thank you very much for coming.
Insider, researcher, ongoing research does not happen without teachers. We'll be very, very happy to do a collaborative project. Please give us your papers. We'll get back to you. Thank you. Any more? We created a common option ID for all our academics. Lina and I academics. You course by take it on. Take it on. Apologies. Apologies. Take one of these. Take one of these. Apologies. Lina, we don't have criteria.